Hello and welcome to this week's InConversation, in which I talk to people in the Northeast dynamic and exciting cybersecurity industry. My name is Phil Jackman and I lead on CyberNorth, Dynamo Northeast cybersecurity cluster, supported by Accenture and the Innovation Super Network. We're part of the new UK Cyber Cluster Collaboration, UKC3, and recognised by DCMS and the National Cybersecurity Centre as representing the region. And today, I'm joined by Cy Anderson, Head of Service Management and Cybersecurity at Home Group. Hi, Cy, how are you doing?
Very well. I'm doing canny. How are you doing, Phil?
Very, very good. Very good. Thanks. So can we start a bit by telling us a bit about yourself and what your role is at the Home Group?
Yeah, sure. I joined Home Group probably 3 to 4 years ago, and over that time, my role's changed a few times. So actually, my job title of Head of Service Management probably isn't as accurate as it should be these days. I'm more head of technical delivery and cybersecurity. So I've got the cybersecurity team that report directly into me, and the rest of my direct reports are managers. So it's kind of like I'm accountable for the projects and all the third line engineers except the digital developers. Um, Day to day in the cyberspace, like I said, I manage the team. I own the cybersecurity roadmaps. I map out our capabilities every few months to see where we are, to see where the gaps are. Once I've got them gaps, then I look at, okay, do we have a technology going out of date that, I don't know, as an example, does mobile device management? Do we want to change it? Or do we have a full gap and we need to purchase some technology and things like that? I also deal with the operational security, vulnerability management, some of the support life cycle as services go out to support. So just a bit of a jack of all trades, really. Also we do the user education, get involved in ISO audits. So yes, very much jack of all trades and master of none.
Well, I wouldn't put yourself down, Cy, but these questions are great because then you suddenly realise how much you actually do. But there you go. So the Home Group is one of the UK's largest housing associations, registered social landlord. I think. Is your work focused on the business itself, or do you get involved with the tenants at all?
We mainly get involved with the business. It's kind of, we're very much a back office function. So we look after, like I've said, the systems, but the more secure we can keep the information and data of our customers, then that feels like we're helping our customers because obviously no one wants a data breach. We also get involved a little bit with, we have a customer Wi-Fi offering that we provide via a third party because we have lots of tenants who might live in shared accommodation or care homes or anything like that. So we helped spec all that out, make sure it was a secure offering and web filtered and things like that. So that's about as close as we tend to get to the tenants on a day-to-day basis.
And how did COVID affect your business, particularly in relation to your tenants?
Um, we from a personal and IT perspective, we actually did quite well. We'd already been on the road to bringing teams in. We were already using it extensively in IT in the project office. So all the plumbing was there. There was a lot of scrambling to get people who were desktop based home, same as a lot of businesses, quickly deploying loads of Surface Pros. Um, as a business, we were very lucky because the tenants and the people in houses to a certain extent, whereas if we owned a shop, would have been in deep trouble from a financial perspective. And also, I guess what we did do as part of COVID, we do run care homes, and there was a lot of elderly people that were almost captive prisoners when we were in full lockdown. So we were talking to people in the front line of our business, and they said, "Is there anything you can do? These people don't have computers, they can't even Zoom the family and friends." So we went into our stock cupboard because we'd recently done a refresh of our devices and we had a load of Surface Books. So we sent them off to a third party, got them all wiped, and then we sent them back out to the customers. And it was a real feel good moment when you then see the footage of someone who hasn't spoken to the son or daughter for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, then they can have a conversation and support them. So that was great. It really felt rewarding that day on the job when you started seeing those things.
Because technology is about people, but I thought you put a whole new meaning to the word working from home, I suppose.
Yeah.
I bet you had never heard that joke before. But anyway, let's talk a bit about you. It seems you took a little while to get into cyber, starting in more general IT. What attracted you to a career in technology?
Well, I kind of fell into it. I was, don't get us wrong, I always liked war games and had an interest in that side of things, but I wasn't really a big technologist. I dropped out my A levels. I was doing maths and a few things, and what actually happened was my mum saw a job advertised in the paper back when jobs were advertised in the paper for a trainee computer programmer, and the only prerequisite was you had to have an A in GCSE maths. So I applied on a wing and a prayer, and I got the job. So I then just started. It was very much teach yourself, but I started writing the um, programs behind scratch cards and things like that. And the business I kind of started with morphed into what's now known as Tombola. But at the time, that part of the business was part of a printers called Edward Thompson because he used to print the scratch cards and all that. So I kind of learnt my trade a little bit. And then once I knew what I was doing a little bit, I was actually, this is quite interesting. Then I moved into the world of Linux and then got me Linux scripting skills and things like that. Then I moved into managed services and infrastructure. And then I flip flopped for a bit between being a developer or infrastructure consultant sort of thing. Um, so yeah, I kind of fell into it and then went, actually, I can do this and it's quite good and it's interesting. So
Excellent. Tombola is a fantastic company, of course, grown top like Topsy. But has security always been a consideration for you, or is that something you kind of learned
well,
later on?
well, it's funny you should ask that because I had a quick look at my LinkedIn profile and it's probably not as accurate as it should be. Because when you look at it, it looks like I only really got into security in the last few years. Whereas when I looked at it, it was 2007 when I had my first security team. Now they had a line manager, but that was the first time when they went, "Can you look after these guys? Look after firewalls, checkpoint, managed service." So I started dipping my toe in the water then. Then in the managed service, I was put in charge of all the patching of the service, and it was about 2,000 in the estate and all the different components and getting involved with firewalls and the network team. And then my previous role that I was at, I was on something called the security business team. So for different functions in the business, so that's CRM, business intelligence, or security, you had a representative from each of the pillars. So you'd have like a service delivery manager, a technical infrastructure guy, you'd have a security manager, and you'd have a development manager or whatever. And we used to then have to present to the leadership team, this is what's on the roadmap, this is the budget we need, these are the key KPIs, these are what our risks are. And that was part of my role, but it doesn't really call that out on my LinkedIn.
You'd be telling me that you don't believe everything you read on the internet. I don't know. So your title has cybersecurity in it, and so that suggests a couple of things to me. One is that Home Group takes this seriously, but secondly, it's still it's a bit of a new thing. Sort of, it has to be described with somebody's job. What's your thinking around having cybersecurity in your title?
Well, there's a couple of bits on it. I think, yeah, I love cybersecurity, so I wanted a wee job title. There's also an element of, like I touched on, the cybersecurity team reports direct into me as opposed to the other areas I have. Um, Home Group was a bit light on cybersecurity a few years ago, and this was highlighted, and I went, right, we need to do something about it, like a lot of other businesses. So I said I was very keen to take up that up. So I built the team, built the capabilities out. So it's also really useful having that in my title. It helps when auditors come around. It helps if there's a security incident and maybe you need to give some message out to the business that they don't want to do something. So sort of emergency patching, for example, on Microsoft Print Spooler the other month. And it does help to give a little bit more gravitas when you go into people around those things, because cybersecurity in a lot of businesses, especially if they're not technology focused, in my opinion, isn't always widely understood. Whereas then if they see someone with cybersecurity, they go, actually, they must know what they're doing a little bit.
No, I think that's a very good point, and I think it shows that the Home Group takes it seriously. It's a good message, Conan. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, Phil, yeah, we need to present to the board and provide reports and KPIs to make sure that we're doing things. We're also heavily, or we get a lot of financing from government, so therefore we'll come under a lot of governance and audit and things like that. So really, it needs ownership and someone to make sure it's all happening. So that's I guess another reason.
No, I think that's a very valid reason. But my understanding is the home group's a charity, and so how does it ensure that it gets that focus between cybersecurity and the investment? How does it justify that as a charitable organisation?
I think that goes back to what I've said, because as we get audited so much and those reports go to the board and we need to check we're going through actions, sometimes you just need funding in order to close a gap that an audit has identified. We obviously can't fix every single thing, because if you try and fix every single thing with cybersecurity and controls, people can't do the job. And Home Group does take it really seriously. So that's why, to be honest, when I have gone with a business case or this is a gap or this needs improving, a lot of the time I am successful, because they do understand if you do get breached, it's a lot more expensive than actually a little bit of investment up front on pen testing or tooling or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, when I used to run IT in an organisation, our motto was, "You should try running without us." There you go. So, what thing? So you've had a career in IT and cyber for some time now, and what do you think needs to be done to encourage more young people to follow your footsteps and fall into it or plan it?
It's a really difficult one, that. I think the current gap we've got, or lack of resources, or resources in high demand, I don't know if that's going to be a temporary thing for a couple of years. I think cybersecurity is becoming more and more well known, especially amongst the younger generation. I think they're made aware of it, of how to stay safe online from as soon as you can shove an iPad in the hand to keep them quiet, sort of thing. Um, I think it's about getting awareness to people, and you got to try and catch them when they're young. I think there needs to be a bit more done in the education, letting people know, teaching them some life skills, teaching them about online, trying to get them some base programming, see if people are interested in that. Because once you get into it, it's not as daunting and as scary as you think. If you ask someone non-techie, I need you to write a program, it sounds impossible. But once you've written a couple of programs and you realize you normally just steal bits from other programs, it's not that difficult. So it really, in my answer, try and get them engaged young, whether that's going into schools or anything like that. So at the minute, on that topic, one of my relatives teaches in schools, and they've asked me to go along and do like a half an hour, just talk about cybersecurity, why it's important and why they should look at going into it. So I'm waiting for a date to do that, probably over Zoom or GoToMeet or whatever.
That's great, because that's something that CyberNorth gets involved in quite a lot of. There's a lot of organisations, there's a lot of schools and colleges needing that kind of support. So that's great to hear. So my last question for you then, Cy. It's been a very challenging year, very interesting year. It looks like some sort of normality's appearing. What are your hopes in terms of the future?
My hopes in terms of the future are, I hope businesses keep with the flexibility and lessons learned during the pandemic. We've proved, I think, that 90% of businesses pretty much can work from home, especially in the IT sector. And I know working from home doesn't work for everyone. I've got people I work with who, I don't know, the wife's a nurse and they've got 2-year-olds and they're trying to have a meeting. But there's no need to apologize for that stuff. That's just the way of the world now. And the people in that sort of boat, or who maybe miss as much physical contact and banter, they want to go to the office. If people want to go to the office, I think that's great. But if people go, I don't want to sit on the A1 for an hour and a half every day, I'd rather work from home and I'll come in on occasion when needed. I hope businesses kind of respect and keep doing that, and don't just go, let's just go back to all the old ways of working.
I'm right with you there. I think some sort of hybrid combination is what's needed. Well, thanks very much for that, Cy. That was really good. I'd also like to thank Robert Campbell, who's helped me to set up these InConversations. Look out for the next series, and I'll see you at Cyberfest this September.
Okay,
Thanks.
cheers, Phil. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
That was In Conversation with Phil Jackman, lead for CyberNorth. Audio and video production was by me, Robert Campbell. This was a Team Funds production for Dynamo Northeast.